Wednesday the 19th of January, you're very welcome along to OTB AM. It's Ger Gilroy and Owen Sheehan with you all the way through until 10 a.m. this morning. We're very grateful for your company. If you'd like to get in touch with us, if there's anything you'd like to get off your metaphorical sporting chest, 0879 180 180 is the WhatsApp number. Or of course, you can leave a comment to the YouTube stream, tweet us at Off The Ball AM. It is Ireland Rugby Squad Six Nations Day, so a big day in the various households around the country where they're like, what? I'm not in the squad? Or yes, I'm there. So we'll talk about that. We'll tease it out a little bit later on for you. And we're also talking about Manchester United this morning because, well, we can.
Well, yeah, they're playing tonight.
They're the most glorious sporting soap opera. There was a period where Bayern Munich went off the rails and they were christened FC Hollywood. That's exactly what Manchester United are at the moment. It's FC Hollywood. It's more about the stuff that's happening off the field, their commercial activities, their media rights deals, their Instagram posts, their seven-asides and training, than it is about what's actually happening on the field.
And it's very interesting what's happening off the field. Like, we've got a manager who doesn't really do manager speak, it seems. Like,
so far, right? Or maybe he's playing chess and we're playing checkers. That's the possibility.
Very good point, actually. We're not really on the same level as Ralf Rangnick, potentially. But he doesn't talk like other managers do. I think
or he's a spoofer, as Roddy Collins says.
Or he's a spoofer. It's one of those two things. There is no possible way that there's any way that this falls in the middle. So Ralf Rangnick this week, talking about his players, as you'd imagine. Paul Pogba came up in conversation, as you'd imagine. He referred to his first training session as extraordinary. So he's happy to have Paul Pogba back in the squad. And he was asked if there's any point in playing Pogba over the next little while, given his United contract, and the club are looking to the future. And Rangnick said, yes, of course. I also played Nemanja Matic now in the last games, and his contract is also expiring. By the way, my contract as a manager is also expiring in the summer. So, like, kind of a lot of honesty coming out here.
Does he say this with a ha 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 and the room stony faced? Like,
oh, he's German.
Nothing coming back, or is it like it's just purely dead factual? What's the big deal?
I think so. It's like 4222. My contract is expiring in the summer. This is the facts. He says about Pogba, he wants to show the fans of Manchester United, the board, the whole world, what kind of player he can be. And even if it's for only showing up for a new contract elsewhere, I mean, he will be highly motivated to do that. Why should I then not play him?
This is a big thing in American sports. It's a contract year. You go out, you do your best, you make loads of money in your next deal. This is like, it's in English football, it seems to be like, well, he's going to mind himself for his new deal as opposed to try and add an extra couple of million to the deal. I don't really understand. It's very different. Like, oh, I mean, you're going to have a little bit of an injury. And maybe it's because the money is so guaranteed in English football and it's not guaranteed in American sports. Maybe that's the motivational difference, is like, you get your 3-year deal, you get your 4-year deal in England. You're guaranteed every single penny of that contract unless the club goes bust. Whereas in America, you know, there's a set number of money that's guaranteed when you sign, and the rest of it is incentivized. So maybe that's why you go all out to get the bigger contract, because you get bigger guarantees. Whereas with this, if you get, and we're talking about the 20 grand to 50 grand a year players as opposed to the Paul Pogbas of the world, there's you just need to get the new 3-year deal because you'll get every penny of that. So it doesn't really matter if it's 25 grand or 30 grand. I don't know. That kind of like reminds me of the Harry Kane situation earlier in the year. In theory, you should sign a lot of players on 1-year deals, and they would play and they would perform really well, and then you would know whether or not they're worth a contract with you, or they would go somewhere else, and you wouldn't care because you've got the good performance out of them. But that doesn't seem to be the case.
No, because I guess transfer fees, and they want to be able to rake it in if that player goes elsewhere.
The corollary of that is if you only sign players who are out of contract, you don't have to pay any of those transfer fees.
Yeah, true. Like, I didn't quite understand. Maybe there's like a real drop off in form, but I didn't really understand why Harry Kane didn't come out at the start of the season and
score a lot of goals.
Exactly.
Because he'd be a Man City player this week or next week, right?
Well, exactly. And I think that obviously there's been talk over the last couple of days that maybe Kane will force a move again. There hasn't been many suggestions that Manchester City want to force the move again, not in this window anyway, and January is always a pretty fallow month when it comes to moves. We're already at January 19th as well, so it's not going to happen this month. So like between here and the end of the season, like Spurs should be licking their chops, Harry Kane should be licking their chops. They can both come to this very adult agreement that, you know, you might have to go elsewhere, but you're going to give us a load of goals before you go.
And so Rangnick is not talking to us when he's having this conversation. He's talking to Pogba and the Pogba universe, multiverse of is it Raiola's his agent?
I think so, yeah.
Raiola was sick wasn't he? Wasn't it Raiola who was sick, who was in hospital? And so I suspect that is holding up a lot of the biggest transfers at the moment. But it is a mature thing to do. Pogba, smash your way to 400 grand next year a week with Real or Paris Saint-Germain. Make them both want you. Make them both want to be part of what you do for France at the World Cup. You know, important global marketing opportunity for your brands by being absolutely amazing over the next 4 or 5 months, or be diffident, be not that committed, and just give everybody reason to doubt. And I think that's what Rangnick is doing here. He's trying to make the next 3 months the best 3 months he can have, and make the next 3 months the best 3 months that Pogba can have. Because if he gets Pogba into this team, the team will be better, right? The team will be better than the team we've seen. I mean, I can't say this with any authority because it hasn't. The team looked exactly the same with Pogba as it has without Pogba, right?
What about the run that they went on in December last year? Was it December last year?
I mean, remind me here, right?
Like
so
when
was this when Pogba scored in every game?
Yeah, like and there was definitely.
Were they playing well? Did they look like they were a team who could dominate matches?
Certainly grinding results out.
Okay,
I'm going to put it that way. Like, because I'm not necessarily sure if like you would think with the talents that he has that Paul Pogba playing well is something that improves every team. I'm not sure if that's necessarily the case for the very top teams, though. In Manchester United, I still think there's a question mark about it because
pick him in a 4-2-2-2. Pick him there. Where?
That's a very, very hard. I think it's the second two, the middle two.
Okay, so it's him and Bruno behind
Ronaldo and Cavani. Well, there's that would be an interesting experiment to play out on FIFA first before anybody even goes anywhere near it in real life.
Let's simulate this a million times and see how many games we actually win.
What's interesting as well, like Randy, I've found Randy's press conferences fascinating since he's arrived. First of all, he's just like very easy to listen to, but second of all the revealing details he's given, like on Jadon Sancho, for example, he was asked about him this week, and there definitely feels that there is maybe this Bundesliga sense of, you know, you can't blame the difference of quality in the leagues for why Jadon Sancho has failed in the Premier League, because, you know, it's clearly Manchester United are a basket case. Anybody who says, you know, the Premier League is just a tougher league than the Bundesliga, you know, they've got a sense of entitlement and a sense of Premier League snobbery. But Ralf Rangnick, when asked about Jadon Sancho, difficult to say. It's a different league, it's a different competition, it's more physical, it's more pressure, although he played for one of the biggest clubs in Germany, in Dortmund. But I think in total, the whole league, the whole competition is more physical and the level of expectation is higher. Now, in fairness, he is mentioning physicality quite a bit there, and I think a lot of Bundesliga experts probably accept maybe that the Premier League is more physical, but he's also talking there about a league with more expectation, and it's interesting to hear somebody who's come from the German league tap into this a little bit and realise that this actually could be a real reason, because I'm not sure. Like it's only people who've played in both leagues who can tell you 100% if moving over to the Premier League from the Bundesliga is just a massive step up. Rangnick's kind of touching on it a little bit here and saying that it's not the most ridiculous notion in the world. So I think that there's possibly even more truth though in the fact that he said that when he was at Dortmund, he went there as an 18-year-old. Now he's 23, 24, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. And it's just that greater sense of expectation, regardless of if you're playing in England or in Germany, that seems to have been a bit of a problem for him this season.
Is there anything in the Sancho deal that gives people pause about how amazing Haaland is going to be when he comes to England or to England? Say let's just say England, because he can go to Spain and he could be an instant success. Is there anything that gives anybody pause to go, signing him isn't just the automatic cheat code that we thought it was, in the same way that Lukaku arrival wasn't the final piece of the Chelsea jigsaw? Like we're shooing in the notion that Haaland automatically is a massive success and scores 35 to 50 goals for whichever Premier League side was to be able to sign him.
I think that there's added excitement around Erling Haaland because of his physicality and because of the way he plays as a number 9, because of course you can't just throw physicality around and look at Lukaku in terms of his transformation from Serie A dominant force to somebody who looks pretty poor for Chelsea at the moment. Whereas it's just kind of the dynamic nature to Haaland as a number 9, which would make people pretty excited that he can be the spearhead for your attack. He's also great in terms of contributing to the rest of play as well, and he is clearly somebody who's going to be able to handle the physicality of the Premier League, if that's what Rangnick is saying is a big issue for Jadon Sancho. Like, I don't think that there's any doubt about that. Unless, like, really the perspective that we get on television is just totally off. Surely Haaland is perfect for the Premier League given his physical makeup.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it's obvious that the Bundesliga is a great place to go shopping for Premier League teams. There's a piece here from one of those list websites compiled by fans from 2021, the start of last year, right? And they've gone through the top 10 Bundesliga signings, right? Number 10 is Sebastian Haller, who joined West Ham from Frankfurt in 2019. A coup. Granit Xhaka is number 9. This is the top 10 all-time Premier League transfers in the Bundesliga. So we've started off really well, right? 8 is Soyuncu. Fair enough. 7 is Bernd Leno at Arsenal.
When was this list published?
2021. 6 is Gundogan. 5 is Leroy Sané. He massive success. 4 is Firmino. 3 is Heung-min Son. 2 is Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Who, you know, if you hadn't spent 50 million on him, if he'd come free and you'd had this glorious experiment and he wasn't like completely toxic in your club and wasn't driving around the Batman car, late to training as the captain, late to the match as the captain.
I sense you don't necessarily rate this list, Ger.
And 1 is De Bruyne, right? But De Bruyne...
What are you going to say about De Bruyne here? You can't possibly be saying anything other than De Bruyne has been an unbelievable signing for Manchester City.
Yeah, but what age was he when he actually joined Chelsea? Like, so look, fair enough. Okay, you got to credit. You've got to credit. Who do you credit with making De Bruyne? Do you credit the Bundesliga? Maybe you do, because that's where he recovered from Jose Mourinho. What a great manager Mourinho was. I don't know. I just like, you can't automatically say this is the best, and maybe it's stupid, but I'm just wondering if maybe the Sancho transfer makes everybody go, that was a lot of money to spend on this thing which hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out. Like, the Jadon Sancho transfer has not worked out yet, and the next manager coming in is going to have like a very expensive, frail experiment that there's no guarantee is going to succeed. There's no guarantee Sancho is going to suddenly become a massive player for Manchester United. And when you consider the transfer fee, like, in the transfer fee is not his fault, the transfer fee is blah, blah, blah. But it actually, you are one of those world-class players because that's what the money says you are. And you perform the way Sancho has. I don't know. It would certainly, you would think there are better ways to cultivate players and talent than going and signing the very best players in that league for that price. And maybe that's completely wrong. Maybe I'm overrating the recency bias of the Sancho flop.
But there's a key element missing here. Like, Sancho's English, and it was sort of a homecoming as much as anything else, right? That it was like, you got to get this guy back into our league. He's our player, if you're looking at it from a Premier League standpoint. And there was definitely an added attraction there. Like, I'm not necessarily sure if there would have been a similar clamour to get him back into the Premier League had he not come through a Premier League system and had he not been playing for the national team of England.
You're right. There's definitely an English tax.
Like, it is interesting though. Like, I mean, if we're looking for more closer comparisons of Bundesliga to Premier League, potentially Sebastian Haller is actually a closer example here. Obviously the same position as Haaland, and has proven since leaving the Premier League once again that he is an outstanding striker. He's been close to record breaking so far in the Champions League with Ajax this season, and it just didn't work out in the Premier League.
Why not though?
Does that tap into the Ralf Rangnick comments this week about the physicality in the league, and maybe if you are that physical number 9, again spitballing here, if you are that physical number 9, that actually you get cancelled out a little bit by Premier League centre backs, and that in the Dutch league or in the German league you're just that bit bigger. I don't know, but like, it's notable how much of a difference there has been in that player since leaving West Ham. And as we now know, West Ham weren't in a terrible position when he was there, whereas with Sancho, it does feel that, sure, some of the blame has to go on the player and potentially overpaying for him. We'll see. But also there has to go some blame towards Manchester United as a club and what he's operated in. And like, we saw Bruno Fernandes play really good football for the first time at the weekend. We know that Bruno Fernandes is not a bad player. We know that Bruno Fernandes was absolutely worth every penny that Manchester United paid for him. But they've managed to get themselves into a situation where they're not getting peak Bruno Fernandes this season. And I think that there may be something in that as well when it comes to Jadon Sancho, because there were glimpses not just glimpses, there were sustained periods of excellent form in Germany. And surely they're not bad enough in the scouting department to have made a complete error on a player. Surely the England national team isn't bad enough to have made an error on a player. So a lot of people in a lot of places think that this guy is absolutely good enough to play consistently at Champions League level. So I think that there is definitely an overrating on how big a flop he is because of Manchester United being United.
Is the new manager's job to fix it, or is the new manager and the club architecture hierarchy's job to sell him? Like, take 60 million if you can get. If Bayern Munich want to sign this guy, because the reputation in Germany was, remember Didi Hamann on TV go, this is ridiculous. What are they doing? Not picking Sancho. He's amazing. And that was the German view, was like, England's main problem is not the flakiness that's, been that house of cards since '66. It's the fact that they're not picking Sancho. And then Sancho, not that good.
I think that if you're going to get 60 million for Sancho this year,
you take it.
No, I don't. Look, well, I think like we're having this conversation because Ralf Rangnick has given a lot of oxygen to this. Yeah, for sure.
The truth.
That, like, if I didn't see those comments, I would be 100% saying you've got to stick with this guy for another couple of years.
There's a psychological frailty here where he can't handle the transfer fee. Maybe you should have done some bloody research on this, lads. That's essentially what you read when you read between the lines. He's like, now and again, Rangnick thinks he's going to be there for the long haul and thinks he's going to be in the background, so he wants us to succeed, and he wants his fingerprints on a flowering of form over the last 3 or 4 months. If he can get Pogba playing well and he gets Sancho playing well, he can step back and go, my work here is done. I'm going to pick up whatever cash I'm going to get for the next couple of years to be the architect behind the scenes and get all the credit, but take none of the pressure of the big job when Poch or Ten Hag comes in, right? So he obviously does want him to succeed, and he thinks this is the cattle prod that's going to work on Sancho. I don't know. I mean, it's connecting with Gen Z footballers, a tricky business.
Yeah, it is. Like, I mean, like, just looking at the Rangnick comments, when he came to Borussia Dortmund as a young player, he was only 18. Now he's 23, 24, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. I think Sancho's 21. I think there's still a few years to get to before he gets to that stage of like being the 23, 24.
Did Rangnick actually get his age wrong?
Well, I'm literally reading out from Sky Sports article. When he came to Borussia Dortmund as a young player, he was 18. Now he's 23, 24, playing for one of the biggest clubs in the world. I'm not sure, is that a typo? I didn't watch the press conference. I copied that from a Sky Sports article this morning.
It's 22 in March, yeah.
And Jadon Sancho's still 21. So, I think that is a big difference. And look, I think at that age, I think you have to. Are Manchester United going to care about clawing back a transfer fee on him? Maybe they will, but I think there's still a hell of a lot of time for this to go.
So where does the spoofometer go when you're hearing that comment? Is it like, managerial genius, psychological masterclass in puffing up the 20-year-old, 21-year-old, or spoofer got his age wrong?
I think. Are you supposed to know all the ages of your players off by heart?
Yeah, you should know what age your players are.
Fair.
It's not that hard.
It's a physical sport. Like, I was kind of.
What's this guy's profile? Yeah, I've read his psychological profile. I've read the assessment of him. I read the scouting reports. We have a lot of data and information. I've seen his GPS stats. I get them every day. I get them after training. I go through them and I go, yeah, you were really putting the effort in. I know his age. No,
I just feel this need to just jump to Rangnick's defence at all opportunities at the moment because he just seems like such a nice guy. And
great that he's in our lives. As I said, FC Hollywood.
Yeah, FC Hollywood, but getting your employees' names wrong.
What do the Man United fans think of Rangnick? What do you, if you're listening this morning, let us know. You can tweet us at Off the Ball AM. You can leave a comment on the YouTube stream. Are you impressed so far with his job? Is it such a difficult job that actually you're wrestling Medusa's head? There's just like these snakes coming at you the whole time with forked tongues, and you don't know which one it is. So is that what the Man United job is at the moment? And how is he doing? Maybe he's turned to stone.